Good morning, everyone. I was listening to some music last night. A little bit of Otis Redding, sitting on the dock of the bay. And I suddenly started thinking about my first shoot in New York on Down to Earth. And I never realized just maybe how memorable that was, and maybe how important it was as an event in my life that I'll probably never repeat. I arrived in New York, was met at the airport, had a great limousine ride, and they took me right to the set. Didn't even have a chance to check into the hotel. So we arrived on set, went to my trailer. Wardrobe was there. They got me all fitted out in the wardrobe, and they said the AD would be here shortly. The directors dropped in, Paul and Chris Weiss. Great guys. They were so helpful, just so personable, and I really appreciate that because I was relatively new in my career at that time, and I really didn't know what to expect in many of the cases. Anyways, here I am in an alley in Harlem. My trailer is actually behind a whole row of buildings, and they just simply said that we were going to shoot out front of the theater. And I thought, okay, no big deal. They said that I'd be called soon, so I was waiting. And then I got this knock on the trailer door after, I think about maybe an hour, something like that. It was getting just about sunset, I guess, by that time. And the second AD, actually, a very petite young woman who turned out to be a black belt in karate. I guess I needed that for protection anyway. So she started, she said, come with me. We're going to go to set. And I, okay, so great. I started following her. She took me down the alley and through these back doors, and I said, where are we going? She says, oh, we're just cutting through the theater. And I said, oh, what theater? And she said, the Apollo. Wow, I just about freaked. I mean, talk about a classic venue. Oh my God, and I get there, and the nice part is, I'm seeing a part of the Apollo that very few people, unless you're an entertainer, see. I walked into the back. We went down under for some reason. I'm not sure why, maybe to come up the other side or whatever. Anyways, it was really tight and low with pipes running here and there and everywhere. And I remember the dressing rooms were off to the left. And, you know, I'm thinking, oh my God, it's like a maze in here. It's like incredible. And then we came up a staircase, and there I was, walking across the stage in the Apollo Theater. Like, wow, it's exciting as hell. I had even forgotten by that point, I think, that Chris Rock and Regina King were waiting out front. Well, they weren't really waiting. We were kind of, we were being called ahead of time because we had this distance to travel through the theater to get out to the front of the theater, right at street level, right obviously under the marquee, etc. And so here I am sort of tripping across the stage of the Apollo, and I'm just took a few moments, and I just stood there right in the center of the stage, just looking out at the seats in the back. And, you know, you just, I mean, if I remember correctly, there were a sea of red seats, and it was just absolutely an unbelievable feeling that you get a chance to get this perspective, even though the theater was empty. You get a chance to get this or experience this perspective that very few people really, in terms of the entertainment industry, actually get a chance to see. So, you know, I was really in awe, no question about it. And then I got pulled away by the AD, and now I'm walking up the center aisles, or the side aisle, I forget, anyways, to get to the back of the main theater. And then we walked to the left through a couple of doors, and then she pushed the double doors open out onto the street, and oh my gosh, I was absolutely wowed. Now, just put this in perspective. Earlier that day, they had a limousine pick me up north of Toronto, where we lived, a little community called Shelburne, that was on an unassumed road, a gravel road that was not even plowed in the winter. I mean, that's how remote my place was, you know. And sure enough, though, at 5 o'clock in the morning, this damn limousine showed up. I don't have any idea how they found me. This was before GPS. I want to tell you, I give them strict instructions, but this big shiny limousine was there in this little rural area picking me up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I get in the car and like I'm $1,000,000. So I'm this little old Yahoo from north of Toronto, and here I am riding in this limousine down the Highway 10, getting to the airport, getting on the plane, and from that, less than what, maybe 12 hours later, probably a little later, 13, 14 hours later, here I am standing on the stage in the Apollo Theater, like, holy cow. And then going through the doors and suddenly realizing something pretty big was happening. The scene called for me to vogue with Regina King, again, just a lovely lady. Oh my gosh, she was just spectacular. And keep in mind that in this particular film, Chris Rock would do certain things, and then I'd kind of pick it up and carry on and do certain things that he did as well. We were always dressed in the same outfit, like the Bobbsey twins. Well, maybe that's a phrase that you guys wouldn't know. But anyways, we were dressed identically, except I was chunky as hell and he was svelte and thin as hell. And so here I am bursting through these doors with the AD. The directors meet me and they say, come on over, we want to introduce you. Well, this is Chris Rock, this is Regina King. Like, I am just, you know, this is just, I'm beside myself, let's put it that way. And so here we are out in front of the theater, and the scene called for Chris to do some voguing, etc. And of course, I had to stand there and watch what he did and then go on and try to emulate it. And that was what was a fantastic fact about this film. I got to sit right there on the set all the time, literally, beside the directors, with Chris Rock on one side, I'm on the other side. And literally, these guys are talking about the film as if I'm not there, because they just assume that what I'm going to do, and I had to listen to all this very intently, I was going to do what he was going to do when it was called, when action was called. So it was one of those interesting situations that's not often replicated in film, where, hey, I'm there for the whole darn thing, sitting on a director's chair beside the directors as they talk about what they're going to do in the film, which is unusual because more often than not, actors aren't called to the set until such times as they're ready to shoot. But here it was very different because of that. So it was quite an interesting moment, without question. And then, of course, we were having a problem because word got out very quickly that Chris was on set and that he was, you know, that he was visible, maybe even touchable. So before they knew it, oh my God, the street was packed, absolutely packed. I don't know, 5,000, 10,000 people. It was that packed. So so they wouldn't create any difficulties, I guess, in terms of traffic, things of that nature. They wanted to get the shot in rather quickly. So here we were, Chris would vogue, cut, I'd go stand in, I'd try to do what he did, cut, Chris would go in, and this went on until they finally said, listen, we got to get Chris out of here. So they ushered him out and just left Regina King and I doing our voguing. And you know something? It was really spectacular because it was so in the moment with the real crowd there. It was almost a bit of theater or stage for me. And as we were ushered out, we were ushered back I was ushered back through the theater again to my trailer, and I remember sitting there saying, oh my God, I've got 13 or 14 more days like this in store. I was just, I got to tell you, so excited about the prospect. I mean, I was beside myself. And I thought, you know, what possibly could happen today that would be a culmination? And well, there was something that happened. It was like they took me to my limousine, got out of my wardrobe. They took me to my limousine, ushered me off to the Waldorf Astoria. I was already booked in. They escorted me up to my suite in the Waldorf Astoria. And I gotta tell you, I found out later that a lot of the cast was not particularly satisfied with the Waldorf. But me, the little yokel from north of Toronto, I get ushered into this room, and my God, it was as big as a tennis court, and it was appointed like there was no end. It was, oh my goodness. I thought, how could anybody not be satisfied with this? Well, I'm going to leave it there because there's another part of this story that you'll find interesting as well, as relates to the second week of the shoot, where they actually moved us because of the complaints of the other actors on the, I guess, the quality of the room, the size of the room, I don't know. But for me, it was a Taj Mahal. So listen, until next time, take care.